Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Jason with Suburban Adventures, our family's outdoor adventure channel, and today we're talking about bait and which bait is right for you, especially if you are a beginner. So you can check out my playlist, Fishing for Beginners, in which I'm trying to just go through and give some basic tips for fishing if you are just starting out. And if you know nothing about fishing whatsoever, this is to help you out and learn a little bit more about fishing and help you get into it. And today, we're talking about bait. Now, you basically have three types of bait. Okay, you've got live bait. So I got some worms here, right? But live bait, you can see these are trout worms. You can get night crawlers. Live bait doesn't just refer to worms. You can get minnows, crawdads, all sorts of stuff for live bait. So you also then have what's known as soft baits, and I'll explain a little bit more about them. And then you have hard baits. So what I'm going to do is just talk briefly about each, sort of the pros and cons for each, and if you're a beginner, you know what you want to use and why you want to use it. So let's start out with live bait. Obviously, if you're starting out, this is the way to go. Grab some worms, especially if you can find them yourself. That's really gonna, you can almost never go wrong with worms. If you can get them in your yard, perfect. If not, you can usually get them at any sort of like Dick's Sporting Goods, or even if there's gas stations nearby, like a state park or something where people are gonna be doing a lot of fishing. So the benefits of live bait are, well, first of all, you got scent. Right, the fish, you're gonna get the smell of the worm or the minnow or whatever, and then also the action, right? If you got your worm still just sort of wriggling a little bit on the hook, or if you've got a minnow that's still sort of swimming along as you hooked them, obviously that's going to be the most ideal, and that's going to be what fish normally are used to going after. Now with live bait, you know, there's a shelf life for it. You got to use it. You can put the worms in the refrigerator and they do keep for a while. Worms you can't go wrong with. Minnows, if you're going to trap them yourself, they're a little bit harder to find. You can go to a bait store that sells minnows. If you're going to trap them yourself, you need to maybe sort of read up on what your state's regulations are. A lot of times, I know in New York, you can't trap a minnow and then use it in another body of water. Same thing with crawdads. Some of them are considered an invasive species, so you want to check on that if you want to go that route. If you're buying them from a bait shop, you're going to be all set. So I would say, yeah, this is what you want to get yourself some worms. You're going to be good to go. You'll catch some fish with that always. Next, you got hard baits. Now, obviously, hard baits are exactly what they sound like. They're hard, so they're usually made out of plastic, or they can be made out of wood. Okay, a lot of your older ones are even made out of wood. You can be made out of metal. Okay, so there's all sorts of different materials that they can be made out of. And the advantage with these is that there's so many varieties out there. You know, you've got crankbaits, you've got chatterbaits, you've got spoons, you've got blade baits, I mean, there's just, the list goes on. And not only that, you've got so many different varieties of the same, you know, so you could get this one right here, which is a lipless crankbait. You could get this in just about any color you can imagine, any size you can imagine. Because they're hard, they're durable, they're not invincible, but they're durable, they're gonna hold up. And you can use them for all sorts of different things. There's different ones for different actions, for different fish, for different locations and features. So they're really versatile based on what you're fishing, when you're fishing, you know, why you're fishing. You can get a different hard bait for that. A lot of them don't have a huge learning curve for them. These lipless crankbaits, you know, there's different techniques, but essentially really you just, you know, hook your line onto it and you just pull it through the water. You know, same thing with this. This is the jerk bait. That's a little bit more technical. Now the downside to this is they're more expensive. Okay, they're going to cost you a little bit more money. They do require a little bit of maintenance. You know, your hooks might get bent. They might need to be sharpened. You might need to swap them out. They do tend to get snagged. I've lost a lot of them. those hooks get snagged on weeds or rocks or whatever and you lose them. So that's the downside. But once you get into a little bit more advanced into fishing, you know, hard baits are definitely the way to go. Then lastly, you got soft baits. Okay, now they're called soft baits because they're soft. They're usually made out of soft plastic or some material like that. And they're intended to sort of replicate some sort of live bait, right? So this is like a curly-tailed worm, I think that's what it's called. And now the good thing with soft baits is they got a couple advantages. One, they are going to be cheaper than hard baits usually. You can usually get them in packs of, you know, 6, 8, whatever. So, you know, I got this at Ollie's at $2.99. This is in their bargain bin. The ones that I really like are a zoom bait, not necessarily these ones. And you can get them for like $3.99 or $4.99 for like a 6 or 8 pack. You know, you got your most basic, like your soft plastic worm, right? Like this guy. Now these come in all sorts of colors. I mean, you name it, you could find the color in that. And again, that's good because it's based on, you want to sort of match what you think the fish you're eating in the body of water where you're fishing. So, you know, you got your worms, but then they come in all sorts of other things. This is the curly-tailed worm, chartreuse pumpkin color. You got all sorts of other like different creatures, and I've got more, but I just wanted to show you a couple of them. This is like I'm not really sure what this is supposed to be, but this has some little arms and stuff on it. This is like a green with purple specks in it. I guess the color is green pumpkin. My favorite color personally, no matter what I'm using, is some sort of green pumpkin. It just seems to be work the best for me. And then you also got ones like this yum bait. You can see this is supposed to look like a little crawdad, right? So the advantages to these are they're cheaper. You can rig them different ways, and generally you can rig them so that they don't get snagged as easy, and we're not going to get into rigging them right now, but you can rig them in different ways so that you can be weedless, they don't get snagged as easy. You can use them multiple times. So if I got a worm, and generally you can get a couple, depends on how sturdy they are, or depends on how hard the fish are biting them, but you can get a couple out of each one. So that's the advantage to those. The disadvantage, it takes a little bit more. It's probably, I'm going to say, the most technical, because then you got to learn how to do either like a Texas rig or a wacky rig or something like that. But in the motion of it, there's a lot you can do with these. They're really versatile. You can do them weightless or with weights or Ned rig them or on and on and on, but that's more detail than you need if you're a beginner. So I like soft plastics. I like them all, honestly. You know, for me to say which one's my favorite, it just depends on what you're hoping to catch. But if you're a beginner, grab yourself some worms, go out to your backyard, go to your planting bed, dig up some worms, use them, throw them on a hook, toss it out there. You're going to be good to go. So I hope this helped. I have a playlist called Fishing for Beginners. I'll put that right there. If you're not a subscriber, you can subscribe there. We really appreciate it. Like this video while you're at it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.